Imagine a world teetering on the edge of chaos. The year is 1914. Europe is a ticking time bomb of empires, armies, and ambition. And then, bang! A single gunshot in Sarajevo shatters the silence. Archduke Franz Ferdinand is dead. One man's death sets the world on fire. Within weeks, the great powers are at war. Not just soldiers, but whole nations are swept into a storm they never truly saw coming. Young men, barely out of school, march off with shining boots and wide eyes, believing they'll be home by Christmas. They had no idea what waited for them, because this wasn't a war of glory. It was a war of mud, blood, and terror. On the Western Front, trenches carved the earth like scars. Soldiers lived in filth, surrounded by rats the size of cats, sleeping to the sound of distant screams and thunderous shellfire. Days bled into nights, the dead piled up, and the land between trenches, no man's land, was a slaughterhouse. This was not the war their fathers had fought. This was industrial death. Machine guns spat fire like demons. Poison gas rolled across the battlefield, silent and invisible, until lungs filled with acid and eyes burned blind. Tanks, new and monstrous, crawled across the mud. And above it all, the sky buzzed with the first dogfights, canvas planes with pilots dueling like knights in the clouds. And yet, the war only grew. Africa, the Middle East, Asia. Soldiers from British colonies, India, Canada, Australia, were shipped across oceans to fight a war that was not their own. Over 30 countries, millions of people, all caught in the jaws of a conflict that showed no mercy. 4 years, 20 million dead. When the war finally ended on November 11, 1918, there was no celebration, only silence. The world had cracked open. Old empires collapsed. Survivors came home broken in body and spirit. And the Treaty of Versailles, instead of healing wounds, planted the seeds of another, even darker war. They called it the war to end all wars. But history had other plans. World War I didn't just redraw borders. It rewrote the rules of war, of power, of humanity itself. It left scars that still shape our world today. So remember those who stood in the trenches, those who fell in distant lands, and the generation that was promised a future but was handed a battlefield instead, lest we forget. Thank you.